Welcome back, everybody. Today's video is going to go along with task sheet 659. We maybe have done some of this just a little bit out of order, but this task sheet is going to be about retrieving trouble codes, which we've already seen in a couple of these other videos. But I'm going to show you a couple different ways in the scan tool. I don't think I've shown you the OBD direct all that much, and I'll show you how to pull specific DTCs so we can get a little bit more information out of this. So I'm going to pull up some of the stuff on the scanner and show you some differences between the two modes, and that'll do it for this dash sheet. All right, so we've got our truck on and our cable hooked up under the dash. So I'm going to go through and pull codes in two different ways. We're going to go in OBD direct first, and then we'll go into the scanner, and I'll kind of show you the differences. So OBD direct, this is like a generic function, so any scan tool should have at least this base OBD functionality. So we're going to go into OBD diagnose. We're going to start our communication. We have a 12 volt light duty vehicle versus a 24 volt heavy duty, so this will pull some bigger truck stuff. But the first thing you'll notice is we didn't have to build out our vehicle. So this is just straight communication without anything specific. So here's our menu. So and this is where, if you guys remember, we talked about the different modes that are available. These are the different modes. So we've got mode 1 all the way down to mode 9. I believe there's a mode 10 also. But we're gonna go mode 3 and look at our DTCs real quick. So you see we've got 3 codes in there. A 118. So that temp sensor problem we had the other day did eventually throw a code, but I did have that thing open circuit for quite a while when I was doing the other testing. So we got 3 codes, a 118, a 200 for an injector fault, and a 300 for a random misfire. Which, if you think back over some of the other task sheets that we've done, this is all stuff that's just kind of left over from previous testing. Now, I did have to go out and drive around for a minute this weekend, so any codes that were current had ran and passed, and it turned the light off on my dash. So I haven't cleared any codes, but it's kind of self-tested itself back to not having a light on. So these are all going to be history codes. It doesn't really tell you that necessarily, but I can show you a way to double check that here in the other menu. We can check our readiness monitors. We got options. Monitors complete this cycle, so if you're out test driving this thing around and you wanted to pull up and see what ran and passed during your test drive, you would go to that one, or we can check this other one that's since DTC cleared. And I know I've mentioned this before, but if you guys are trying to get a code or a monitor to run and set, when you come back from your test drive, pull it into your stalls or wherever you're gonna look at this thing again, and don't turn it off. Leave it running, because you want to know this ignition cycle, what's going on. A lot of times, if you need something driven for a little bit longer, sometimes service advisors or managers or even the porters will get tasked with doing those extended test drives. So I always make sure to tell them very specifically, bring this back to me, and even if I'm not there, it doesn't matter, just leave it running, just let it sit and idle in my stalls. So we want to keep that thing up so that we can take a look at current this cycle data. We're going to go into monitors. Check out our monitors. I know they asked about that on the task sheet. So this is how we're looking after I test drove around this weekend. So this is monitors that have ran since the last time codes were cleared. So as you can see, everything is complete. We don't have any fails. The only thing we have is some that are not supported. So it just depends on the vehicle, the age of the vehicle, and what kind of systems are equipped on it. Some of them will be supported, some of them not. Like, I don't even have secondary air on this truck at all, so obviously that one's not going to do anything for us. I believe since I don't have secondary air, I have 2 that's showing not supported or not not run or whatever, I would still be able to go and get a state inspection off of this. So I guess that's good news since I need to get a state inspection. So again, this is our monitors. And there's a couple different modes that you can go back in and get some more data out of. But again, this is the OBD direct. So this is without inputting our our specific vehicle data in here. So now I'm going to go back to the scanner function, which we've used in the past. So to do that, at least on this Snap-on scanner, if you guys ever get to use one of these in the past, if I was to try and go back in, take me right back to where I was. So we got to go down here and hit change vehicle. That's going to kind of clear things out for us. So now when I go into scanner, it's going to let me build out my vehicle. And you guys have seen this part a few times before. 99 pickup with a 5.3. Go ahead and load that vehicle. We're under, no air pump. All right, so now we're back to our scanner menu. You guys have seen this a couple times. We go into our engine. We've already got our cable hooked up, so we're going to continue. So now here's where things are going to be a little bit different. Of course, everybody's got to drive their loud truck past the house when I'm trying to record. But we're going to go into display codes. We want engine trans trouble code information. Now, if you see this looks a little bit different, we've got a whole bunch more codes in there. So that other mode didn't show us, I believe it had the 118, it didn't show us the 1114 or 1115. And there was no mass airflow code in there either. So that's why, if you can, go into more specific information, because you may get more information that the generic OBD2 functionality isn't going to give you. So again, all these are cleared out, so these should be history codes. But like I said, that's why I'd go the extra step to build the vehicle, because you may get more information that you don't get on the OBD side. We can check, see what's history codes, and everything's in there. So it's all the same stuff. We're all history on this. Now, one other thing that you can do, I've talked about this before, for confirming your diagnosis. And this is a big thing. It was a big thing for me. I didn't like getting comebacks or rechecks, whatever you want to call them. So I would use this part of the scanner a lot. It's DTC status. So this lets you search for a specific code. So if you're fighting with a code and you need to know if this thing ran or passed or whatever, you can go in here and look for one specifically. So we had a 102 in here before. We'll search for that one real quick. So as you can see, this gives us a little bit more information. So this ignition cycle, this code passed. Since our last code clear, it has failed, but our last test is passed. So if you were trying to fix this thing, and you had a problem, you're going to go out and test drive it, and you want to know if the vehicle actually tested or looked at this sensor or looked at this code to see if it passed or failed, or maybe it didn't run. You can pull this up and see the last test, this thing passed. And the other way that this can come in handy, say you've got a big list of codes in there, kind of like we just saw. They may not all be current codes, so we know that, hey, there was a 102 in my list of codes on this vehicle, but when I pull it up, it's not the one that wants the light on. So if you have multiple codes, you're not sure which one is acting up at the moment, you can pull up something like this and look and see if it's actually asking the truck to have the light turned on. So that can help you kind of narrow things down a little bit also. But like I said, this comes in handy, especially if you're the type, after you put a part on, you clear the code and then go test drive it. Well, just because the light didn't come on in one trip doesn't really tell you anything. You may need 2 trips to run and pass that code to begin with, or maybe it did run and pass and you just don't know because the light coming on isn't really conclusive. So I would always go and pull this back up and 1, make sure that it ran, and 2, that it passed. So a little bit of extra information, as much information as we can get is always a good thing. So again, if you have a scanner that has the functionality to build out a vehicle specifically, I would always go with that over the generic OBD system. So we saw our codes, we saw our monitors. I had shown you guys freeze frame before. I can pull it up again here real quick. But that's about all they're really asking for on the task sheet. Let's see if we'll pull up that coolant sensor code real quick and see if the freeze frame shows our temperature. No, see, it didn't. When it took its snapshot, I guess that was when it was shorted together, because that's maxed out instead of being in the negatives. But that's what we're looking at on freeze frame. So sometimes it will catch things kind of out of the ordinary, but again, you have to know what you're looking for, or else it's not really gonna mean anything to you. But the task sheet asks you to print out or write down everything on a freeze frame. You don't have to write all that stuff out, a big old list, but just want to let you guys know where it's at and what you can do with it. But that's kind of the differences between the two, the generic and the fully functional scanner. So that'll do it for this one, and we'll move on to the next.